Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 68 of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. My name's Andrew Marsh, and I'm autistic. My representation of autism is Asperger's syndrome, and I discovered that when I was 51, although I've always known I was different and didn't fit in. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. It's that being around people and integration, and how difficult it can be for autistic people and people with Asperger's syndrome to feel as though they are being part of something. And there's really two parts to this that I want to talk about today. One is that feeling of why we don't fit in. And secondly, what you, as someone else, someone in their workplace, someone in their social group, can do to help them. So we'll start off with, why do autistic people feel different, feel as though they don't fit in? A lot of that comes down to lived experience. Unfortunately, many autistic people have suffered, and I do use the word suffered correctly, at the hands of bullies and abusers, whether they are family members, teachers, the bullies at school, bullies at work, college, what have you, lecturers, teachers. And they have absolutely struggled fitting in, fitting as though they belong somewhere, and doing all those natural things that neurotypical people take for granted because it is so seamless to them. How to fit into a group of people when you walk into a room, how to be around family when you're having a family gathering, the barbecue in the back garden. Neurotypical people do that seamlessly. Yes, there are people who are neurotypical who have agoraphobia and who have issues with specific things, but generally, as a group of society, autistic people, people with Asperger's syndrome, really, really struggle because of that lived experience. I was badly bullied at school. In fact, I was abused at school. The abuse got worse when I went to college. I'm going to give you three examples of what they did to me at college. We were on a field trip and I got pinned down in my bed and they cut off all my hair. Badly, roughly, with a pair of scissors, and there's 5 of them sitting on me. Nothing I could do. We were on another field trip, and there was about 100 of us in this country pad, and there was a games room. And I'd heard there was a games room on the first floor, and so I went to the games room. The minute I opened the door, there was a shout of, "There he is, get him!" And before I knew what had happened, I'd been picked up by 4 or 5 people. One thing I forgot to say is the games room was on the first floor. Important. Is they then threw me out of a window. I didn't know there was a roof to the ground floor for me to land on until I landed on it when it was 6 foot down. They shut the window and laughed their faces off at me, thought it was brilliant, pointing at the window, and I'm outside the window, scared stiff, wondering just what the hell they were going to do next. So we've had haircut, we've had the window. There was a third thing that's completely escaped my mind. Hopefully I don't know why I can't remember this third item that they did to me, but it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant. And that's what I lived with every day at college, was name calling, was uh, was abuse. And it was so difficult. The easiest thing for me to do at college would have been, after a few weeks, going, do you know what? I'm not doing this. Not going to be part of this, and leave. But that would have meant they win. That would have meant that I had failed to get my degree. And that was absolutely my prime objective at college, was to get my degree. So I stuck it out. I'm a resilient so-and-so. And when I dig my heels in about something, I absolutely do. But I did not fit in with 90% of my colleagues in college. I was the black sheep. I was the sore thumb. I was, whatever metaphors you want to use, whatever form of words you want to use, I was it. I was that person who most of the rest of the people on my class would ridicule, would abuse, would berate, would just make my life a living hell, because I was different. And this was before I knew I had Asperger's syndrome, but I knew I was different. So that lived experience of being abused, being bullied, being singled out, being picked on, being thrown out of windows, being had your hair cut off, whatever they were, that was my life. That was what I had to cope with on a daily basis. And I was so stressed out of my nut. I used to bite my fingers so badly that they would bleed. And at any one time, I would have 3 or 4 fingers bleeding because I had ripped my nails and the sides of them to pieces. I was so stressed. Don't know how I got through it. Well, I kind of did because I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get my degree. Just partly to spite them, and partly because it was the stepping stone to my career as a geologist. So this gives you some context as to why autistic people with Asperger syndrome, find it difficult to fit in because they know they're different. And other people know that as well. That's him. He's different. Pick on him. Let's pick on him so that they don't pick on me, which was a defense mechanism that many people who are bullies had, was they want to be the one who's who's picking on someone else so that they don't get to be the person who's the victim. So that lived experience of going through all of those things are things you can't get away from. Yes, you can learn from them. Yes, you can have therapy to help you overcome certain things, certain stressful situations. But I'm 59. I was 59 last week. And I can't remember one of the 3 things that they did to me at college. I'll probably remember it after I finish this webinar, but they did 3 really, really bad things to me. They threw me out of a window, they cut off all my hair, and they did something else. And I cannot remember what it was. Maybe I blanked it out for the time being. So trying to fit in as an autistic person to an other situation. Now that could be family. I struggled being around family, particularly wider family, cousins and aunts and uncles, grandparents. I struggled. I struggled around that. I would actually much rather prefer to be outside in the hall playing with my toys and my action men than in the big lounge where everyone was, because it was too intense, too much noise, too many separate conversations going on. Just too much. And nowhere to vent, nowhere to release that angst, that anger, that just please leave me alone. I need to calm down. I need to get away from this situation. And when you're an 8-year-old kid, you're not allowed to get away from that situation. Just you sit there and you behave yourself. You don't have the words, or you're not listened to express, please leave me alone. I want to go outside. I'll be safe because I'll be in the hall. Just leave me be. Parents, aunts and uncles, people in authority didn't get it. They just saw me as the problem child. Do this, do that, behave yourself. There was 8 years old. There was a phrase that my family used, and it happened at Christmas. We'd gone to my nan's and had a big townhouse in Brighton, and there's a big lounge. There was a dining area, there was a lounge area, the TV. It's a big, big lounge, and there's a lot of people in it. And I was in the middle of this melee of people, and an adult from the kitchen had decided it was too noisy in the lounge. And so that adult came in, saw me in the middle of this, and went, Andrew, get over there, sit down, shut up, and be quiet. And that phrase was the mantra I lived in for the next 10 years in family company. Sit down, shut up, and be quiet. Nice to feel wanted in family. They thought it was a joke. That was just reinforcement that I was different, that I was the one who was picked on, and I was being picked on by the adults as well as the people of my sort of age. That did not make me feel welcome. That did not make me feel part of family. That did not make me feel good. That made me feel like pretty poor. There's words that I could use, but I want to keep this language appropriate for today. But I felt like that every day around family, all of the time. So when I come to go to college, there's 100 people on my course. how on earth am I going to fit in with that 100 people? That was the wider course. The bit that I did, the geology, there was about 30. But there's still 30 people I've got to get on with. I've got to find a way to fit in with. Didn't happen. It didn't happen. I was picked out. I wasn't the only one, but I was the one they did the worst stuff to. So fitting in, having a sense of belonging are alien things to me. Even now, in the group of friends that we have, it's a very small group. It's a very small group of people that we go to see or we have coming to see us. Because I can't cope with too many people in those situations. I'm 59-year-old man and I still struggle with that, fitting in. And I've got a wonderful wife who supports me and helps me and realizes my triggers and will try and smooth things out, have a quiet word with someone, say, just give Andrew some time, or we're going to go outside and he'll be fine in 10, 15 minutes. I didn't have that support system when I was a kid growing up. I had everyone against me, school, college, even when I went to work as a geologist, professional geologist, a professional career, I struggled. So I'm laboring the point a little bit, but I want to get across to you that it's not just, having a bad day. Yeah, well, we all have them. You'll get over it. Get on with it. It's not that. It is not that. That ingrained sense of difference, of not fitting in and not knowing how to fit in. How, even in networking groups, when I go to networking groups now, I still struggle. It's a room full of people. It could be 40 people. They could be having 20 conversations. How on earth do I go in there and introduce myself and start a conversation when too much noise, intensity of the room? It's just an energy that's boom, it's right there. How do I break into that to have a conversation about someone? And then how do I continue that conversation when I am so different and not fitting in? And how do I do that? It's still a struggle for me. And I'm 59. So that is a taster of what it's like for me growing up. It's a taste of what it's like for me now. It's difficult. So autistic people, people with Asperger syndrome, we're different. Whether we're diagnosed or not, we're different. I say I stood out. I was diagnosed at 51. I'd been through my career as a geologist. That would all gone and finished before I knew I had Asperger's. But I always knew I was different. So this not fitting in, this not knowing what to do, because we don't know the agenda of the people you're going to be with. But you might think, but they're friends and family. Everything's going to be fine. They're going to want you to have a good time. They don't always. They'll have their cliquey little groups. They'll have their, oh, that's Andrew. He's over there. He's on his own. No one will think, Andrew, come and join us. Come and join us. Come and say hello. Come. They'll just leave you on your own, not fitting in, standing there with a drink or with a cup of tea, going, what do I do? They're having a conversation. They're having a conversation. I was always taught that to interrupt people when they're having a conversation was rude. And I was taught that absolutely by my parents. You do not interrupt people. It's rude. You do not pester people. It's rude. So they're immediately giving me a barrier to being in groups when they're having conversations. I don't know what to do. Some of you extroverts who are watching this thinking, oh, it's great. You just waltz in, you go and shake someone's hand, you say, hi, I'm Andrew. This is what I do. That's what you do. That's not comfortable for me to do. I'm getting better at it, but I'm not alpha male, pumped full of testosterone. I'm going to make that room mine and I'm going to own it. That's not how I am. That's not how autistic people are built up. They can be very talented, super talented. We talked a lot on these episodes of Talking Asperger's with Andrew about the abilities that people who are Asperger's or autistic have, the great skills they have. The difficulties they have with this fitting in. finding a way to connect with someone else, finding a way to work in the team that they're working in at work. In a team of 6 people, you've got to get on with 5 other people. It can be very difficult. You've got a boss, supervisor. You may have a supervisor and a manager. That's 8 people. That's 7 people you've got to get on with. How are you going to do that? How are you going to interact with your supervisor and your manager to get knowing what they want you to do and then go ahead and do it, knowing that you've got to interact with 2 people over there at some point during the week to get the information from them for you to do the thing that you're doing, so that it gets all pulled together towards the end of the week and you deliver that one thing that your team is delivering for your supervisor, for your boss. That fitting in is so difficult for us because we don't know the agenda of the person or the group of people that we're in. Excuse me. And as I said earlier, that not knowing how we're going to be greeted, how we're going to be treated, comes from bad lived experience. So if you're working with an autistic person, someone who's got Asperger's, what can you do as a person, as a fellow human being? What can you do as an employer? What can you do as a supervisor or a fellow colleague in the team? What can you do to help Andrew in what he's doing so that we can all work together and get the thing done? What can you do? Well, there's several things. And some of these might sound very corny, and I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but you could be nice to someone. Be friendly. Say hello. Have a warm greeting. Hello, how are you? Take a moment to have that simple conversation. Hello, how are you feeling today? Is everything okay with what we're doing today? Or do you understand where we're going with what we're doing at work? Ask those open questions. Don't ask closed questions. Don't ask a closed question. Everything doing all right? When you're basically telling them the answer you want to hear is yes, everything's fine. Carry on, don't bother me. Ask open questions of the person with Asperger's or the autistic person. Try and get them to open up, to explain a bit about what they're doing, what their problems are, what they're doing and they've done well and they're happy with. Just have that conversation. Just eke it out of them with gentle, cajoling, gentle questions to tease out, to get them to open up, to be more relaxed and feel less threatened by the presence of someone else in their space. So open questions is a good thing. Have someone buddy them. It's an old-fashioned concept, but it works. A buddy or a mentor. A buddy is someone that I would say is more at the same level as them. A mentor is perhaps at a level above them. But the essence of that is a support person. So let's, for example, say you're working in a team and your client is coming in Thursday afternoon. They want an update and they want to talk to all the team. They don't just want to speak to the manager or the supervisor, which is good because they want to see how the team is getting on. But you've been told on Wednesday that the client is coming in tomorrow afternoon. What do we do? What do I do? What am I supposed to say? What if they ask me about what I'm doing? What do I say? What? Have someone as a buddy. Say, okay, client's coming in. I think I can help you. If you sit next to me, and if you're having difficulty with something, put your pen or pencil down. Just as a little signal that only you and I know, so that I know if you're asked a question and you're struggling, I might chip in. If you're okay, keep your pencil or your pen in your hand. Support them. Find a way to say, we're going to have a meeting with the client today. It's going to be on the second floor in the meeting room. We've been there before. That's important if they have been to where you're going before, because they will know the room layout. They will know it's X meters long, it's X meters wide, it's got 1 table, or it's got 2 tables, or it's got 6 chairs, or it's got 10 chairs. They will understand if they've been there before. If they haven't been there before, say, we're going to the conference room on the second floor. It's like the one we've got at the end of the corridor. So you're giving them a frame of reference so they can, okay, end of the corridor, it's this size, it's laid out like this. I understand that. If you don't know, say, well, I tell you what we'll do. Before we go home tonight, let's just you and me go and take a wander up to the second floor and have a look at that room just for a minute, 30 seconds, just so that we can both understand where we're going and what the room's going to be laid out like, what we think it's going to look like. It's going to be laid out like. How many tables, how many chairs, where's the lights? Are they blinds? Are they not blinds? And so on. Has it got a screen? Has it got a projector? All of these things we can find out by taking a little peek in that room for 30 seconds. Is that okay before we leave tonight? And you'll get a yes, please, because they want to understand where they're going. Everything unknown is a challenge because of that lived experience that I talked to you about. So if you buddy them, you're helping them. You're giving them confidence. You're getting them familiar with what's going on, and you can help them out. Because that will eventually, over time, give them the confidence to contribute, to speak up. So, well, actually, I've been working on that myself, and here's where we are with that. Doesn't need to be very long. It'll be as long as it needs, just to express what you're doing and how you're getting on with something. So buddying is really important. Having a mentor is also a good thing, because a mentor can guide you on how to do the work. It can guide you on relationships between your teams and with others. And they can impart more specific knowledge about the bigger picture, because we tend to be big picture type of people. Although we like to know the detail, we like to understand where it fits in the grand scheme of things. Why are we doing what we're doing, and where does it fit? And is someone going to take what we've given them and progress it somewhere down the line? When I worked as a geologist, quite often our reports would be taken by internal client. We could be working for transportation division or structures division. We've written the report, they take it on board. They then use the information we put in there to go and design the road, the bridge, the structure, whatever it was. So we've got to get our stuff right, because they're going to take the parameters and the information we've got in that report and go and build something, go and design something from it. It may be the end user, might be the client. We might have written a report on a housing estate, a housing scheme, for example, 150 houses from a housing developer. You'd have covered all sorts of things, but the things that you will cover is foundations, it's settlement, it's bearing capacity, things that relate to the physical structure of the building sitting on the ground, and is it going to be okay? Are there any things you need to do, anything special? So the client will then take that, and they will go and get planning permission, because you've covered the engineering. You'll get planning permission for it, and someone will go and build it. So you've got to be right. So we would like to understand how all that fits together, where the next part of the puzzle fits. Because if we understand why, we're more likely to feel comfortable about what is going on. So having a buddy, having a mentor are really useful tools as an employer, or as someone working in a team with someone who's autistic or someone who has Asperger's. These are really useful tips on helping that person work better in that team, helping them fit in, giving them confidence to be able to speak their mind and be able to give contributions to what they're asked, rather than it all coming through a third party, be it coming through the supervisor or the boss. Now, there are times when it needs to be the boss who's speaking. It absolutely does. But there are also times when you're having meetings with your team that everyone has to chip in and give their little contributions about what's going on. And by having someone who's been a buddy and having someone who's a mentor, you're going to give them the confidence to be able to speak up and say their piece and say, oh, actually, I noticed when you were talking, you mentioned that. Well, that interrelates to what I'm doing. So can we have a little chat afterwards about that? Because I need that information to input into what I'm doing so that I can continue with mine. So what you're going to say is going to have a bearing on what I am going to analyze and look at and report on. So there's an interaction that we need to have. Great. Encouraging them to be able to speak their mind and speak up. Let's just have a look, see what else I've written there. Being a buddy, checking in to see if they're okay, if they need anything. Yes, it's simple things. We've covered meeting etiquette before, but if you're a buddy to someone and the meeting is going on a bit, and you can sense that your autistic person sitting next to you is starting to get a little agitated, a little angst, a little, perhaps just say, excuse me, I think we've been covered quite a lot of information here today. Could we have a short 10-15 minute tea break, coffee break, so that we can come back to this a little more refreshed? You're saying that in a manner that will benefit everyone, but you're thinking about your autistic person who's sitting next to you, thinking, this is getting too much for them. I can tell if I can feel that they're not sitting comfortably with this. We need to have a break. So rather than say Andrew needs a break because he's autistic, why don't we open up and say we've covered a lot of information. Can we have a short break, 10, 15 minutes? That way you're not highlighting a specific issue with a specific member of staff. You're making it something that's available to all of the people at the meeting room. Good idea. I was just about to come to something at a sensible break. We'll just cover that point for another two or 3 minutes, and then we can have our break. Perfect. So you've buddied them. You're helping them out. You're helping the team work together. What else do I have here? And reassurance when they're doing something new. Yeah, doing something new is a challenge. We do like familiarity. Definitely like our familiarity. I mean, I've got my office laid out. I've got files over there. I've got my printer there. I've got filing cabinets down to the side of me. I've got my bookcases over there and so on. So I know where everything is. I can lay my hands on whatever it is that I need for what I'm doing. So familiarity is good. So if we're doing something unfamiliar, something new, they might need a bit of reassurance, might be a bit of resistance. Oh, we can do something new. Not comfortable with that. Can have someone explain. Have your buddy, have your mentor, have your supervisor or manager or team member say it's okay. It's going to be fine. We did something similar to this last month or 6 months ago. Remember that project? We're doing something similar to that. Great. They've then got a frame of reference that they can relate something to. Okay, some of the things might be different, but yeah, they have got a framework around which they can get their head into a state where they are comfortable and reasonably familiar with, they know what's going to happen. We like frameworks, we like plans, we like logical things, we like to know what's going on, we like our ducks in a row, all those metaphors and phrases. So that when we're doing something new, is it really new? Or is it an adaptation of what we've done before? Because obviously every project's going to have a different set of conclusions and recommendations potentially. But is it similar to what we've done before? Do we have to analyze it? Do we have to tackle it? Do we have to look at it in the same similar way that we did on the project 6 months ago or 3 months ago, or the one that we just completed last week? If you've got that frame of reference, you're going to give the autistic person some comfort. Oh, yes, we did that. I know what I did. It went well. Boss said it went well. The client was happy. That's good. That's a positive. That's a positive outcome. Yes, it's something new, but I'm comfortable because I've got a frame of reference that I can tie it back to. I know roughly what's going to happen. I know roughly what the things are. Certain specifics are going to be different, obviously, but I've not looking at doing something completely brand new. It's like the first time you fly in an airplane. It's daunting. It wasn't for me. I was 15 years old and it was a challenge. I was going to South Korea, so it was great. But some people, when you think flying, it's something new. You don't know what to expect. You won't have the experience of how to be on an aeroplane. When you're flying, you won't have thought about looking on a board, finding out what desk you've got to check in. And then you queue up and you check in and they take your bag off you and they give you a ticket. They check your passport. And then your bag disappears down some chute on a conveyor belt. And then you go through security. What's all that about? If you've never done that before, if you've never been through airport security before, and you're autistic, or anyone doing something new like that, it can be a very daunting thing. So giving someone who's autistic something completely new is like going to an airport for the very first time, checking in your bags, going through security, finding gate 58's down the end of that. That's 15-minute walk away. How am I going to do that? Then they've got escalators, they've got travelators, they've got all these shops, there's cafes, there's bars, there's all of these things are just data, information overload. So when you're giving an autistic person something new, think about something like the first time you flew. as I said, I was a 15-year-old kid, and it was a challenge to me, and I was looking forward to it. I was going to see my dad. My mum and I were going to see my dad working in South Korea. So there was a positive at the end of it. I was going to see my dad. I hadn't seen my dad for 6 months or a year or whatever it was. So yeah, I was going to go see my dad. But it was exciting. This was back in 1977. So flying was a different beast back then. It's a little more secure. It's a lot more secure. There's a lot more procedures that we have to go through to fly. But the essence of it is the same. You get there, you either get dropped off or you park or you get the bus. You've got your luggage to deal with. You've got to go to this whopping great building that's half a mile long or bigger. And you've got to find that one place where you've got to check in for your specific flight. Well, why does that happen? How do we deal with that? How do we deal with that? You've got to look at this big board above you in the middle of the hall. Wow, where's my flight? All these strange numbers and codes, and it keeps moving and churning over. All of that. That's what is going through someone's head who's autistic or has Asperger's. Giving me something new. I don't have any frame of reference to put that to as to what's going to happen. I haven't been on the Channel Tunnel, but I can imagine what going on the Channel Tunnel is like. There's going to be security like going on an airport. There's going to be checking in. There's going to be doing all sorts of things. So I've got a frame of reference. I can relate it to being on to flying, and I'm sure that there were similar things at the Channel Tunnel terminals, but they'll have specific things that are relevant to the Channel Tunnel. But there'll be security. There'll be checking in. There'll be bags. There may be, if you're going on a car, I don't know what happens with your car. Does it? Do they have people? Do you have to get out your car and they inspect it with mirrors underneath it? And I don't know, but I suspect something like that might happen. Do you stay in your car, or do you go and sit in a carriage with nice, comfortable chairs? I don't know. So something new that you're giving an autistic person, try and give them a frame of reference that they have some familiarity with. Try and reassure them that it's not absolutely new. There will be occasions when something you give them is absolutely brand spanking new and they've never done anything like it before. So you sit down with them and you have a chat. You say, we've got this new thing. It's completely new to us. We haven't done this before. Or we've all done this before, but you haven't. This is what we dealt with it last time. Or this is how we're going to tackle it this time. Have more check-in points. So at the end of the first day, and you've given them something new to do, sit down with them with a cup of tea. Go, hi, how you getting on? How've you got a grasp of what it is that we're doing on this project? Well, I think so. I've got X, Y, and Z, and I think we're doing A, B, and C. Yeah, okay. That's what I think as well. Let's go on and proceed. Or actually, no, I don't think you've picked that up right. We need to look at it in a bit more detail and have the conversation with them and reassure them. Say yes or no. If it's no, tell them why it's no. Tell them what they've picked up wrong, what they've misunderstood, or what they haven't got to yet. If it's a briefing document that's 60 pages long, trust me, I've seen them. It's not fun. It's not fun when you've got a big, thick, whopping great briefing document. In a way, it's good because they're being specific. But when you've just got the briefing document, you've got, wow, what the? I've got to do all that. You've got to try and find what the key points are. So if you're giving them something new, if you're giving someone with autism or Asperger's something new, try and give them a frame of reference that they have done before, that they have some familiarity with. Oh yeah, on that project we dealt with this aspect. Yes, you remember that? Yes, I do. They've immediately got something that they can pin their attention to. They can grasp, they can understand. We did it this way. We were familiar in that way. So that they've got something that they understand. So those sorts of things are important. So fitting in is really difficult for autistic people. It can be difficult for many neurotypical people, and I'm not just using neurodivergence and Asperger's and autism in my frame of reference, but there are a lot of people who struggle with new things. There are a lot of people that struggle with new people, being in new situations. Help them out. they're a teammate, help them out. Because I can assure you that if your boss sees you helping someone who's struggling or unfamiliar with it, you're more likely to get recognized for that than if you sit there and watch them struggle, just so that you can look good at the bit you do. Do you understand what I'm saying with that? If you're doing the bit you do and you know that the person with Asperger's or autism is struggling and you don't go and help them in some way, just so that you can look good at your bit, the whole thing falls down. So if you can help them, go and sit with them, have a cup of tea. I'm a great believer in sitting down with someone with a cup of tea or coffee, by the way. I think that's a great thing to do, just to sit there, because it takes the formality of something away. You know, if your boss is wandering around or your boss wants to catch an update with someone, do it at your 3 o'clock cup of tea. Let's just, can I mind if we sit down and just have a little chat? How are you getting on? Sit down with a cup of tea, cup of coffee. Perfect. It's less formal. It's not, oh my God, I've got an appointment to go and see the boss. I've got to sit in his office and it's, you go to them and bring them a cup of tea and sit down and say, you've got 5 minutes to tell me how you're getting on. Perfect. That's what you're doing. You're supporting them. You're nurturing them. You're helping them fit in and realize what they are doing and that they've got ownership of it and they can do it well. Because if that's what you want to be able to do, if you're working in a team of 6 people, you want the end product of whatever that is, whether it's a report, whether it's a piece of machinery, whether it's a mechanical thing, whether it's something you've built, you've made, whether it's a macro on a spreadsheet that you're delivering to a third party, whether that's an internal client or an external client. You want that thing to be right, so that when you've given it to them and they've used it, they pick up the phone and go, do you know what? I was really pleased with that thing you did for me last week. That was great. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Everyone knows that one thing that you did has gone well. Everyone gets praise because it worked well. If it didn't work well, the boss is the one who gets it first, and then he's got to find out how his communication is broken down. Well, I did my bit right. I did my bit right. What about you? Well, I struggled because no one helped me. There's your answer. I struggled because no one helped me. I asked for help and I didn't get it. It's going to make the other 5 members of your team look really ridiculous. Yeah, well, I was just doing my bit. If you see someone struggling, go and help them. It will do you much better than just sitting back watching someone fail. Covered quite a bit in this chat today on fitting in and integrating, and how difficult it is for Asperger's people with autism, to do that. We have life experience that has not necessarily been positive. Some of it absolutely hideous, horrible, abuse. People should be in court for what they've done to us, to some people who are autistic. There are people out there who should be in court or should be in jail for some of the things that they've done to autistic people. And that's not an overstatement. I got thrown out of a first floor window. I didn't know there was something to land on. I had all my hair cut off. And I still can't think of the third thing. It's obviously not for me to say today because I can't remember it. So if you're an employer and you have autistic people in your team, help them, support them, give them a buddy, give them a mentor. You might be the mentor, but have a teammate, an experienced teammate who can be a buddy to them. Support, check in, ask how they're getting on. Make them feel welcome. Make them feel as though their contribution matters, because it does. Otherwise, what's the point in them being there? Make sure that they feel as though they can fit in and that they can approach you and ask you questions, because you want to be a leader, not a manager. I'm going to cover leadership again in because I tend to come back to leadership quite often in these my webinars. So I'm going to have leadership as a topic for a future episode of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. But that is all I want to cover today. We've covered an awful lot of ground. Don't forget, I am here and I work with employers to help them better manage people like me, autistic people, people with Asperger's syndrome in the workplace. I could help you in your workplace. I have a 7 steps program on ways to manage people with Asperger's syndrome in the workplace. I'd love to be able to share some of that with you. So if you're not sure what to do, or you've just taken on someone who's autistic and you're not sure what to do, and you don't want to get it wrong, so you're not doing something right, give me a call, drop me a line, andrew@aspergersmatters.com, or you can see me on my website. There's a contact form on my website, aspergersmatters.com. I'd love to have a 30-minute free consultation with you to see how I can help you, because together we can get it better. And if we get it better for one person, we can get it better for the next person, and we can get it better for the next person, so that we learn, we evolve, we get our systems better, so that we are more inclusive and we support everyone in working better in your business. Take a look out on Friday afternoon for next week's topic on Talking Asperger's with Andrew. That'll be on my LinkedIn post. And don't forget, all my videos are on my YouTube channel. So link to my YouTube channel is on my website, aspergersmatters.com. They are free. They are available resource for anyone to dip into and look at. The 67 videos now on there about my with every episode on. Please feel free to dive into those. Like, subscribe, and comment on would be really appreciated to help me develop my audience. And if I can help you in some way manage someone with Asperger's syndrome, please get in touch. That's all for this week. See you next week. Take care and goodbye.